Everybody is looking at Kai Cenat Streamer University like it's a content event. And honestly, I think that's causing people to completely miss what's actually happening right in front of us. Every time I see somebody talking about Streamer University, the conversation usually revolves around the viral clips, the funny moments, the celebrity appearances, or the creators who got accepted. People are treating it like a giant internet event that happens to generate a lot of views. And don't get me wrong, that's definitely part of it. Kai understands content better than almost anybody on the internet right now. The man can turn almost anything into entertainment. But the more I sit back and think about what he's building, the more I become convinced that Streamer University isn't really about the content itself. The content is just the vehicle. The real story is much bigger than that. What if Streamer University isn't a content event at all? What if it's actually the beginning of a media empire? That might sound dramatic at first, but hear me out. When you look at how influence works throughout history, the people who end up with the most power aren't always the people standing in front of the camera. They're usually the people who create the systems that everyone else participates in. That's true in music, it's true in sports, it's true in Hollywood, and increasingly it's becoming true in the creator economy. Most creators spend their entire careers chasing audiences. They want more subscribers, more followers, more viewers, and more engagement. Kai already has all of that. He's already won that game. At a certain point, when you're one of the biggest creators on the internet, getting another million followers doesn't fundamentally change your position. What changes your position is building something that exists beyond yourself. That's the move a lot of successful entertainers eventually make. They stop focusing on being the product and start focusing on owning the platform that produces the product. That's why I think people are underestimating what's happening here. When most viewers watch Streamer University, they see students, they see content creators, they see live streams, they see networking, they see funny interactions. I see infrastructure, I see a creator building an ecosystem. And historically speaking, ecosystems are how empires get built. Think about almost every major entertainment industry. The most powerful organizations are rarely the ones creating every piece of content themselves. They're the ones creating environments where content can be produced. Record labels don't become powerful because they release one hit song. They become powerful because they continuously discover and develop talent. Sports leagues don't become powerful because of one athlete. They become powerful because they create systems that constantly generate new athletes. Movie studios don't survive because of one actor. They survive because they're connected to pipelines that continuously create opportunities and attract talent. The more I think about Streamer University, the more it starts looking less like a school and more like a pipeline. Imagine you're a small creator trying to make it online. You have a couple thousand followers. You're grinding every day. You're posting content, hoping something finally takes off. Then one day you get accepted into Streamer University. Suddenly you're surrounded by successful creators. You're making connections, you're learning, you're collaborating. You're getting exposure you probably couldn't get on your own. That experience changes your trajectory. Now fast forward 3 or 4 years. Let's say you become successful. Who are you going to remember? Who's the person that opened that door? Who's the person who gave you access to those opportunities? Who's the person who created that environment? Kai, that's relationship capital. And relationship capital is one of the most valuable assets in entertainment. People talk about followers all the time, but followers are only one part of influence. Relationships are where real power comes from. Relationships create opportunities, relationships create partnerships, relationships create business ventures, relationships create loyalty. When you build enough of those relationships over time, you start building something much bigger than an audience. You start building a network. And networks are incredibly difficult to compete against. That's why I think Streamer University is smarter than most people realize. The average creator is trying to attract viewers. Kai is attracting creators. Those are two completely different things. One creates attention, the other creates leverage. The reason this stands out to me is because we're watching something that looks very similar to what happened in other industries. In music, artists eventually realized that simply being successful wasn't enough. That's why so many artists started labels. Once you understand how talent works, you realize one successful artist can make money, but 10 successful artists can build an empire. Suddenly, you're not just participating in the industry anymore, you're helping shape it. I'm not saying Kai is secretly creating a creator label. I'm not saying there's some hidden master plan behind every decision. But I do think there are patterns here that are worth paying attention to. Because every major industry eventually creates systems for identifying and developing talent. The creator economy is still relatively young compared to music, TV, or sports. We haven't fully seen what those systems are going to look like yet. Maybe Streamer University is one of the first versions of that future. Another thing that makes this so interesting is the talent discovery aspect. This is the part I don't think enough people are talking about. Every industry spends enormous amounts of time and money searching for talent. Record labels search for artists, sports teams scout athletes, companies recruit employees. Everybody wants to find talented people before everybody else notices them. Now think about what Streamer University does. Instead of spending resources searching for talent, talent comes directly to the platform. Thousands of aspiring creators are voluntarily putting themselves into the ecosystem. They're applying, they're competing, they're trying to get noticed. They're essentially raising their hands and saying, "Look at me, I want an opportunity." That's powerful. When talent starts coming to you instead of you having to find talent, your position changes dramatically. Suddenly you're sitting at the center of a network where opportunities naturally flow toward you. That's one reason I think the long-term implications are much bigger than people realize. The creator economy has become one of the most important industries in modern entertainment. Millions of people want to become creators. Millions of people are trying to build audiences online. But very few people are creating institutions around that demand. Most creators focus on themselves. Kai seems to be experimenting with something larger, and whether people realize it or not, institutions tend to outlast personalities. That's an important distinction. A viral video can disappear in a week. A trend can disappear in a month. Even the biggest creators eventually become less relevant. That's just the reality of entertainment. But institutions can survive for decades, sometimes centuries. Universities survive. Sports leagues survive, media companies survive, talent agencies survive. The individuals inside those systems come and go, but the institution remains. Now, obviously, Streamer University isn't operating on the same scale as a traditional university. That's not the point. The point is the mindset behind it. The point is taking attention and transforming it into something bigger than attention itself. Because attention is valuable, but infrastructure is even more valuable. I think that's where Kai deserves a lot of credit. Whether you love him or hate him, the guy understands modern media. He understands that influence isn't just about getting views anymore. Views are important, but influence becomes much more powerful when you can create environments where other people succeed too. And let's be honest for a second, the creator economy desperately needs more infrastructure. There are millions of people trying to become streamers, YouTubers, TikTok creators, podcasters, and influencers. Most of them are figuring everything out through trial and error. Most of them are making mistakes that could have been avoided. Most of them don't have access to mentorship, networking opportunities, or experienced people who can guide them. That's one reason why something like Streamer University resonates so strongly. People don't just want content. People want opportunity. They want access. They want connections. They want a roadmap. Whether Streamer University ultimately delivers all of those things is a separate conversation, but the demand clearly exists, and where demand exists, business opportunities usually follow. That's why I keep coming back to the idea that this is bigger than content. The content gets the headlines, the content gets the clips, the content gets the engagement, but underneath all of that, there's a foundation being built. A foundation based on relationships, community, talent development, and creator networking. Those things don't generate the same immediate excitement as a viral moment, but they often create far more long-term value. The internet has trained people to focus on what's happening today. Everything moves so fast that most people rarely stop to think about what something might become 5 years from now. We focus on the moment instead of the trajectory. When I look at Streamer University, I'm less interested in what it is today and more interested in what it could become tomorrow. Could it evolve into a larger creator network? Could it become a talent pipeline? Could it become a business ecosystem? Could it become a launching pad for future stars? I don't know. Nobody knows. But those possibilities are exactly why this deserves attention. Because the biggest opportunities are often disguised as something much smaller when they first appear. People rarely recognize major shifts while they're happening. It's only years later that everyone looks back and says the signs were obvious. I'm not claiming Streamer University is guaranteed to become some billion-dollar empire. Maybe it succeeds, maybe it evolves, maybe it eventually disappears. That's entirely possible. The internet is unpredictable. Trends change, audiences change, markets change. But what I do know is that Kai is thinking differently than most creators. Most creators are trying to maximize their own success. Kai appears to be experimenting with creating an ecosystem where other creators can succeed too. And historically, those are the kinds of ideas that end up having the biggest impact. Because when you help build a system that creates opportunities for other people, your influence expands far beyond your own audience. That's where things become truly powerful. That's where movements start. That's where industries evolve. And that's why I think everyone who's looking at Streamer University as nothing more than a content event is missing the bigger picture. The clips are entertaining, the streams are entertaining, the viral moments are entertaining. But entertainment might not be the ultimate goal. The ultimate goal might be creating something much larger than a stream, something larger than the channel, something larger than a creator. What we're potentially watching is the early stage of a creator building infrastructure instead of just content. And if that's really what's happening, then years from now, we might look back at Streamer University the same way people look back at the earliest stages of other major media ventures. Not as a one-time event, but as the foundation of something much bigger. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe this is just an incredibly successful content idea. But if I had to bet, I think there's more going on here than people realize. I think everybody is focused on the classroom while Kai is focused on the campus. And that's a completely different game. Peace.